It's a beautiful evening to have a beautiful evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I do hope that you have had a beautiful day and that your evening couldn't get better watching KBN Television, the finest television. 279 on DRTV, 102 on Topstar, 27 on the Go TV platform. My name is Naomi and this is Family Fest. And as always, family is the oldest human institution. It is society's most basic unit. It is society's most important unit. And because of that, we care for you so much. And that is why we bring to you this program every Tuesday around this time, 20 hours. So feel free to jump in the conversation via those different social media platforms which are up and running this evening. Go to the KBN Facebook page, like, share, and let's have a conversation from that platform. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Tweet us, and we will be able to tweet at you right back. The Instagram levels, that platform is up and running as well. Happy belated Father's Day. Yes, Sunday was Father's Day. And of course, tonight we do have an interesting conversation up in studio, how men's mental health impacts their families. And joining me in studio is a man whose face is not a stranger to KBN Television. Well, he's come through to our studios, well, not the mass media ones, but he's been at the Northmid studios. And of course, he's not a stranger in my community, Onechi Luenji. Good evening.
Good evening, Naomi. Thank you for having me. Wonderful to be here. I always love coming to KBN.
Absolutely,
you guys,
absolutely.
It's a great team here. You all treat me very well, so I enjoy coming.
Thank you for coming to our mass media studios.
Nice place.
Yes.
It's cool.
Right?
Very cool.
Beautiful. Happy belated Father's Day to you.
Thank you. That means a lot because, believe it or not,
Right.
I think I could probably count, with, two hands, the number of people
Right.
that wish, Father's Day. It's not, as big as all the other holidays.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, before we get into our conversation tonight, you put up a message on social media regarding Father's Day, and I quote, "In a society that hurts men and masculinity, fatherhood is a thankless role, and yet duty-bound. And honorable men continue tirelessly to do their best as dads." I salute these men today. From this message, really
Deep.
very deep, very deep. Why did you write such a message, and how would you like to be, to be honored as fathers?
Well, again, fatherhood isn't. Look, I work in marketing, in addition to many hats that I wear, and
Absolutely.
women drive consumer spending decisions. The majority of them, like well over 60-70%. So it's only logical that holidays that are associated with women will have more, even businesses would get behind it. With Father's Day, it doesn't really drive sales. And also, we do live in a world where feminist ideology, especially in the Western world, and also growing in more traditional conservative countries like Zambia and of course Africa in general, is growing. And the great devil in the religion of feminism is patriarchy. And what is patriarchy? It's men.
Right.
So the myth of the gender pay gap and all these other topical issues, it's no secret that men and the boy child are less important. And it's evidenced by even corporates, even in Zambia, they have quotas. So you look at the composition of your board, and they say we need more gender balance. It's a quota. Right. It's not a performance balance. It's a gender balance. And but if you look with education, I think last year, I think the top students, was it grade 9 or grade 12? I can't remember. They were female. So again, it's really broad, but having that practical experience, you really begin to understand how society, kind of the paradigm in which masculinity and manhood is perceived is, I mean, it is what it is. And, you know, men, we're not the type to complain or to make committees and to,
Right.
you know, because men have always understood that we don't possess value, but we have to create it for ourselves to be valued in all aspects of life, whereas women are born with intrinsic value. So you kind of, you roll with the punches, but I think it all kind of comes full circle, you know, when you start to have children, and then you kind of realize like, oh, wow, like I have a son, so I have a boy child growing up in this society
Right.
with these paradigms, and and this person has to contend with that. And so it just makes you think about it more, whereas before I kind of just took it for granted and didn't think about it.
We hear you. Now again, a man's, back to a conversation tonight, obviously, a man's mental health struggles can negatively influence a family in many ways, on nature, depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction, etc. Let's start off this conversation with perhaps how men's mental health affect their families. And what is mental health? We could start from there.
Well, what is mental health? It's really, again, look, mental health is just it's the health of the mind. The physical body. When there's an ailment with the bones, you go to the orthopedic
Right.
surgeon. If there's a problem with the heart, you go to the cardiologist. If there's a problem with the mind, now the thing about the mind is that it's somewhat intangible. So if I have a cut or a bruise on my
It's visible.
on
You're able
my,
to see
on
it.
my body, you can
Oh my
see it.
goodness.
But if I have a bruise in my mind, you can't perceive it. So Africa is really coming around to all of this now. And here's a fun fact. I think the number might have gone up, but as at 2020, Zambia only had 16 psychiatrists for a population of about 20 million people. I think the number probably has gone up to maybe 25, I don't know. And so when you talk about mental health and men and families, first of all, the overall landscape is super depressing because the average person cannot access mental health treatment even if they wanted to. Everybody says, oh, get help. Where? You know, you try to go to
China Mall.
to clinic 5 at UTH. Is it the one upstairs? You get one appointment today, another one in 3 months' time. You go to the private places, they charge you 500, 600 kwacha per session. And for you just to get a rough idea of a diagnosis requires about 10, 20 sessions. So that's all well and good for the upper middle class to the upper class, but what happens to an average person in the community who has bipolar, you know, depression, and you know, requires counseling, maybe, you know, sexual assault. You know, there's so many issues that encompass mental health.
Right.
So there's basically nowhere to go. So what I try to inculcate in my male counterparts is, as men, and also here's the other dynamic. Men and women, of course, are very different.
Absolutely.
So women are more expressive, more communicative, and have more platforms to communicate. It could be in the, I don't want to stereotype, but they could be in the saloon, it could be at the kitchen party, it could be in the ladies' room.
Right.
There are always, there's a support system that women have created for themselves, because that's how you communicate. Men are not as expressive.
Not even at the bars, or maybe your church gatherings, or I don't know,
So-
your men getaways.
Yeah, so and so this is what I was the point I was going to get to. The way that we deal with mental health, it could be I go to the bar to watch the Manchester United game, and that sense of camaraderie and companionship. You're sitting next to me, I'm having my drink, you're having a drink. We have this 90 minutes where we can not think about all our problems and our issues, and we can enjoy the game. That provides some kind of temporal relief. So it's really about us as in the male community trying to just innovate ways where we can be supportive to each other. Because the reality is, you trying to get actual medical help is pretty much not realistic.
But then, if it's not realistic, and then you certainly need to get that help that you certainly need, then where do you go?
So that's the challenge.
Are
yeah.
we going to get permanent, solutions to these problems that men face, for them to be better people for themselves and for everybody around them, for their families, for the community as well?
Right, and then I love that point, because if we talk about families, the pillar of every family is the father.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the world today and all the things that are happening, it's because there's a crisis in families where the fathers are not as present in the home as they used to be. And, there are a lot of, single mothers raising sons, and the cases of violent crime are going up. If you look at where we do have statistics in the USA, the correlation between the lack of fathers in the home and crime are very close.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there is already existing a crisis of fatherhood in our communities. So in short, the father is quite integral to the success of the nuclear family. And if you look at in the African community compared to other, racial communities, this problem is quite prevalent. So we've established that fathers are important.
Right.
Now, so the next point is their mental health, okay? And for all intents and purposes, it's beautiful when the women folk have that interest to say, how do we support you? But the important thing to understand is that women and men just fundamentally have different wiring mentally, okay? So sometimes you read these funny memes about how the man never opens up to the woman,
Right.
and all of that. I wish he could open up. And that the risk to men is that if you try to interpret your mental health through the paradigm of feminine behavior, it actually undermines your role in your relationship, because a lady will say, well, he never cries, he's not in
Right.
touch with his feelings. If he does do that, then she'll say, wait a minute, am I safe with this man?
But then,
He's not man enough.
I hear you.
So
but you still
it's
somehow need to show vulnerability, right? Can you still be vulnerable and still be able to protect us? Yes?
It comes down to emotional intelligence and how prevalent that even is. But that now you're already now in grade 9. Let's come back to baby class.
Okay,
Just
let's go back to
the
baby class.
fundamentals
Yes.
is like I mentioned, as men, just finding these ways that we can even begin to have these conversations in a safe way amongst ourselves before we even bring in the children and we bring in the wives and the partners.
And what are those safer ways, seeing as there's fewer places that you can go seek that help from? What do you think some of those ways could be the safer spaces for you?
So I think it also starts with vulnerability and beginning to trust your small circle of friends. Of course, a bunch of guys sitting around and talking to a bunch of strangers about your inner life. It's a bit awkward.
Right.
But maybe identifying maybe that one or two, people in your life who you can, try to have those conversations with. I also try to encourage younger, younger men, like
Right.
in your 20s, to have mentors who are like maybe much older.
How critical is that?
It's essential because that also tries to help solve the issue of the lack of fathers in the community.
Right.
And have that level of mentorship, because that also helps to teach some of these things that people who've grown up in fatherless homes might not know about how to be a man. And so just trying to create more community amongst ourselves. That's just what it is, because
Right.
again, it's bleak, it's thankless. A man will devote his whole life to his family.
Right.
He will give up everything that again, duty.
Right,
You
duty.
give up everything, you focus on your family, and one mishap, step up, she will walk. If we look
Yeah.
at the divorce rates that have gone
It's very
up, and if
sad.
you really look at the numbers, it's the women initiating the divorces, not the
Absolutely.
men. In mass, men will stay in bad marriages. Look at Will Smith and Jada.
That is a very toxic
Extreme example.
It's
But
extreme.
women are usually the ones who take that step to leave. So just by virtue of even being a family man, men are risking so much, and it's a vulnerable, volatile situation.
And
And
sometimes you don't get to hear or receive thank you, right? But you still go ahead and do your duties, your roles as fathers.
as it goes
On
without
Nature,
saying,
I saw a meme, a funny meme, but I think it will certainly come in hand with our conversation tonight. Life of a man in Zambia. So little sis, he says, I need 2,500 for school fees, bro. Girlfriend money for hair and bundles, babe. And then there's landlord, 1,500 missed calls from the landlady. And the neighbor's daughter, I think I'm pregnant, friend. Where's my money, boy? It's month end.
Oh my
Funny.
God.
Excuse me only. And then there's Siliza also. You have unpaid balance of 55. Zamcash, the list goes on. We know where you stay and you know the street. This was really put in a funny meme, right? But more or less like, let's us in on some of the hurdles that you men have to go through and handle. There's like so much. How do you still stay sane, even in not such a sane world, really, for you to be sane for yourself and your families also? This list looked a lot.
yeah. I mean, I was literally having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier this evening, and we were talking about how if a man doesn't provide value, then he himself has no value. You look at all that stuff. I'm not trying to make generalizations, but if it was a lady who hit on rough times,
Right.
my husband has chased me, or I'm in a rough spot. Can I have a couch just to crash
Right.
on for a few nights? There are people that a lady can call, even back to her own home,
Right.
and would be given a place to stay. But a man would not have that luxury. If you look at the homeless population, it's majority men.
Right. Sad.
So we usually have no support system. We learn very early on that if we don't produce value, then society will discard us.
Right.
Nobody has time for a man who doesn't have anything going on. There has to be something that a man is doing, because that's what men are supposed to do, right? So that's the normal, and fundamentally nobody actually cares about the mental health or the life path or the inner life of males, because a man's role apparently is to nurture. So we would nurture the women, we nurture our families, we provide support to our partners. That's our role as men.
And who's giving you that support? Onechi, hold on to that thought as we take a short break, and when we do come back, the conversations continue. Jump in the conversations via those different social media platforms this evening and let us in on where you're watching us from and how perhaps we can support the men, just so they're safe for themselves and the communities as well on tonight's conversation. We'll be back after this short break.
The Ukusefya Bangwena Organizing Committee proudly present Legacy on the Greens, a prestigious golf tournament commemorating the 10th anniversary of Mwine Lubemba Chitimukulu Kanyantamanga II's reign. Join us as we tee off with Mwine Lubemba Chitimukulu Kanyantamanga II on the 23rd of June at the exquisite Bonanza Golf Course in Lusaka, Zambia, for a day of elegance, camaraderie, and regal competition. Legacy on the Greens, celebrating Mwine Lubemba Chitimukulu Kanyantamanga II's 10th anniversary on the throne. Don't miss this regal affair. Reserve your place today.
those guys finance design and stuff and the like, using their own money. They didn't get from our own coffers. I mean, they can get, but
are you implying that PPPs only involve money from partners? That's the implication you are making.
That's the whole question. Why? What is their role?
Did you fulfill your promise to Mr. Mwende? I should be able to answer, right?
I'll ask you as a politician, was it red or blue?
What government has given to us, macro ocean investments are putting in nothing.
Live on channel 279 on DSTV, 102 on Topstar, 27 on the GoTV platform, plus those different social media platforms that are up and running this particular evening. This is Family First, in case you're just joining us now. You've missed quite a bit, but that is why we do have social media. So jump on there and then you'll be able to catch in the conversation that's up and running this particular evening. Joining me in studio is Onechi Lwenji, who is an award-winning director. He's a writer, he's a producer, he's an actor. Boy, he is many things. He's a father. Yes, Onechi.
It's all true.
No, it's all true. Before we went on a break, we just, sharing on perhaps what needs to be done just so the men can be supported. And even though my mother taught me that, man is king regardless of whether, he has a position in society or not. But sadly, sometimes, especially now, we don't get to see that the men would be respected enough, especially if they're not doing as they should as head or provider.
Well, the simple answer is because Chris Rock said it very well. The only thing people that are loved unconditionally are women, children, and I think he said dogs or pets. Because a man cannot be loved unconditionally. And it's very important, especially for younger guys, to know that nobody can actually love you. No woman can love you unconditionally. The condition is you creating value. And if you don't have value in this world, then, you're doomed.
Sadly, it's really sad. And speaking of, bringing value and just, being safer spaces, sadly, obviously, during the course of last week, obviously, weekend getting into a brand new week, police in Sanfia district of Rokula province, Onechi, arrested a 40-year-old man for defiling his 14-year-old stepdaughter while the mother, of course, left home to work in the field for harvest for a period of time, and now leaving the victim along with her stepfather. Stepfather or no stepfather, I mean, these men are the ones that are supposed to cover and protect the little girls, because this man had like daddy, still daddy, and it's really appalling to continue to witness such stories. And so how can men be better people for themselves, like I said again, for the community and for the family? This is a very appalling story.
It's enraging, it's horrifying, and I think what I'll say is that as hideous and heinous as that is, crime is crime.
Absolutely. And
criminals, we have a justice system to deal with criminals. I just feel like if we're really going to have a conversation about gender and crime, I think the last time I was on, I talked about how I found out that according to the statistics that came out in 2022 in South Africa, child molestation rates in South Africa were 50-50 between girl child and boy child. And that blew my mind because, of course, all the consistent communication is that the girl children are vulnerable, which they are. But it turns out that boy children are also as vulnerable. And the cases don't get reported. There's the stigma around it, and there's so many males who are carrying this burden because they know that there's nowhere that they can go to even open up about it. So it's a very complex issue, and you know, women commit sexual assault as well.
Right, they do.
But you know, I don't feel very qualified to speak more on the topic. But
Absolutely.
we wish healing for that family.
Absolutely, and
And
sometimes
crime is
for,
crime,
for
yeah.
families that might not be able to fend for themselves, obviously that you would protect the man, and in essence, obviously to protect your family. even
And
as-
that's
as-
those are the complicated social
Right.
dynamics about it, which
or
is
you
which is
embarrass our
wrong.
family, you know.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Absolutely, and it was a sad week also because police in Chongwe also equally arrested a man for allegedly stabbing his wife. But this one, obviously, the wife was stabbed on the pretext that she was having an affair with another man, right? So sometimes it's a lot of all these mental issues that could be happening in the man's head, and she might really not know how to handle things.
Or she
Somebody
could-
is
she could
wrong,
have-
right? She could have cheated, but do you have to stab her? How can you work on your emotions better just so you not equally do something?
It's a great question, because now I'm
as-
wondering if the roles were reversed and the man cheated and she did that. Would that really be the through line of the conversation? Now again, we're assuming guilt. We don't know the facts, so it's mere speculation on the
Right.
story. But you know, crimes of passion are just that, crimes of passion, right? But bringing it back to mental health, again, the catch-22 that we find ourselves in as men is that we don't really have many outlets to even explore in the first place. And seeking professional help is a non-starter because there just aren't enough people in the space to handle the workload that
And
is
even
out
if
there.
there are, some people are not able to afford, right?
Exactly. For the few that, you know, and it's the fees are exorbitant, and you know, even once you get on the medication isn't actually cheap. It's quite expensive. So it's a whole enterprise. So I think health and wellness campaigns around masculinity are avenues that can be explored by the right people who are qualified to do it. Do men need help? Absolutely. Will they ask for it? Probably not.
But you should. They should. They should.
You know, and so it's quite complex. But you know, the biggest thing that majority of men go through, loneliness. Loneliness is the largest epidemic that is actually affecting men, and loneliness happens to people with wives
I
and
was gonna
children.
say that. I'm like, is it possible to still be lonely even with somebody?
100%. 100%. Loneliness is it's the silent killer of the majority of men. And if you talk to guys and just go beneath the surface, you'll find that loneliness is an issue. I think when you're so focused on the duty that you have to perform to society, to your family, and to fulfill a sense of self-worth, things like contentment of the soul, companionship that's genuine, those fall to the wayside. I mean, how many guys even have friends, real, actual friends? If you're in your developmental years, that's your 20s into your 30s, most of your friends are actually your silent competition, and you're all in silent competition with each other. So it's not real, genuine connections that you make, which is why having an older mentor is like a better idea. And then before you know it, you're at that age. And then here's the other thing. We want to be successful in our career, so we put in more time. That means that you're missing the foundational years of your family. So when your children are quite young and they start going to school, you're at the office, you're on the grind, you're hustling to make the money, to build the life. So when you finally have it all together, you're probably in your 40s, maybe transitioning to your 50s, then you finally have some assets and some sort of stability in life. And it's just this cycle that just goes on and on and on and on. So, yeah, I mean, loneliness
Interesting
a very big
dynamics,
killer.
Onechi. Speaking of loneliness, also maybe as women, how can we ensure that we really, really penetrate into your spaces so you could be able to share with us intimate details like you most of the times I like to believe, we see memes or pictures. The men would appreciate the women sometimes saying, hey, you're my best friend. Can we have like the actual best friend even in deeds? That you'll be able to share everything that concerns you. You'll be able to be vulnerable, maybe to a certain degree, because again, the men don't want to be entirely vulnerable. How will they be vulnerable and still be able to protect and cover us, even though we feel like it's possible, but you have your own issues? So how can we make a safer space for you to not feel lonely? And if you are lonely, you will certainly speak to us.
Well, I think men we're not very complicated creatures. Just ask us what we want. I'll take the handkerchief and the socks on Father's Day, but if I need to be playing Call of Duty, I'm in my online game with my mates around the world and we're doing a mission and I need to focus for like an hour. I've had a long day, a long shift. I need to detox. I'm playing my game.
Right.
Just give me my space.
Okay.
Let me have my space. And
Do your game.
I decompress, I detox, and then I can be fully present for you and for everything else. So it's just ask. And I again, like, having too much dialogue, that's more of like a feminine way of expression. With guys, we don't really go the route of, let's talk about my feelings.
Yeah.
And the risk again is that, and we've seen when guys try to do it, the women are like, he's a beta male, and so it's a risk. You lose her because now she thinks you're weak, and subconsciously she starts to seek more masculine men. So I mean, being vulnerable emotionally to women, in my personal experience, is a trap.
Oh, wow.
You just don't do that.
Oh, wow. Onechi, you don't seem to have enough time. This conversation needed 2 hours.
I love
now
having these
I
conversations with
know you do. You directed a piece, and it touches on fatherhood as well as
Right.
mental health. Let's talk a bit about that.
I got the good fortune to be able to produce, write, and direct. We call it a brand film for this really great new agricultural brand on the market called Hero Agro, and they're new on the market and they deal in crop protection products and fertilizers. So it's on YouTube, but the creative jump-off point was really this scripture in Isaiah, the book of Isaiah in the Bible, and it says, "The earth shall give birth to her dead," and that so the whole it's about a 3 minutes 45 seconds, like it's almost like a short film. It plays like a short film, but it really speaks towards it's a farmer tending the land with a young son, and that farmer passes on, and the son also takes up that mantle and continues this tradition. So it's the larger circle of life, and it's a meditation on fatherhood and what we inculcate, because it's what we put in to what we raise that will come back to nourish us. And when we eventually merge with the soil, that cycle continues. So I saw a parallel between agriculture and fatherhood. And it was also just a great privilege to be able to tackle topics like fatherhood in media. Like I told you, there is a mass campaign, that's anti-male, anti-fatherhood. Patriarchy is the great devil in this weird religion that's invading the world's culture. But we have uncles, we have brothers, we have sons, so the role of men can't really be that diminished, and that says nothing about the importance and the value of womanhood and motherhood. That's fantastic and beautiful, but the boy child and the male side is kind of getting left behind. So to be able to just kind of write that kind of a story. And even when you watch it, it's very layered. You know, I took a hint from the Bible, which is also a very layered book. If you read it at the surface, you get the surface. If you go deeper, there's profound truths. That's why Jesus, he spoke in parables.
Right.
Just genius, you know. So very much inspired by that, and yeah. So it's on YouTube, and I would like encourage anybody to
Right.
you know look it up, Hero Agro, and you know check it out.
Beautiful, Onechi. We'll definitely be saying our goodbye now. What would your word of advice be to the men, really, to be better men for themselves, like I said, really, and for the community and their families, even in this world that might not really appreciate you, and, you know, even to the women also, like how can we just, you know, be really safer spaces for you?
Well, I would say find your strength, find the courage to want to live your best life for yourself. Your health, your quality of life matters. It's the secret to us being the best that we can be for the community around us. And in as much as, you know, we are duty bound to our role as men in society, we need to find ways to support one another and to thrive. It just, Naomi, I'm starting to get a little older now. and it's only now that I've really begun to think about stuff like, you know, the end of it all.
know.
And you start to realize like, okay, this could end one day.
True.
And then I look back and I wonder, in all the running around of all the bills that I had to pay and all the things that I had to do and make happen, did I find any lasting joy, any happiness? And I guess I'd also say like surround yourself with things that do bring you even temporal amounts of bliss and joy, and hopefully those won't be in destructive things, because we have that responsibility to be the foundation for what society is supposed to be. Men are needed in the homes. You know, men need to be present in the lives of their children. So it's my earnest plea, and hopefully we can live less messed up lives.
Oh, so beautiful, Nature. Thank you so much for coming and, you know, having this conversation that certainly means so much to you. Absolutely. I know how important it is.
And hey, I look, I think we're all trying to, I think everybody's just trying to figure it out. Everybody just wants to have a good life, you know?
Absolutely.
And who knows what revelation we'll have tomorrow, but we're just going to try our
Absolutely.
best.
That legacy is very important. Also,
Yeah.
like, what are you leaving? Yeah, even when you no longer walk by this earth, what are you going to be remembered? Will you actually even be remembered? So thank you so much for watching the show tonight. Family first. Like we said, family is certainly the oldest human institution, and it is society's most basic and most important. And so we definitely want our men to be safe. We want our men to certainly be in a good mental space, because we know that when they are healthy, they are good for themselves. They'll certainly be good for the community. They'll certainly be good for their families. So yeah, but it is okay to not be okay. Unless she disagrees, but vulnerability is also important. So men, please be vulnerable. We love you. We appreciate you, and we certainly see you. So until next week, same place, same time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. Up next is The Big Hour.